It's Carol.
Hello. It's actually Christy. We just share an account. How are you guys? I'll just push pause on the recording. Hi everyone. I'm Christy from Just Peoples, and I'm here today with Hong in Vietnam, Robert in Uganda, and Bushra and Mushfiq in Bangladesh. And we wanted to have a discussion today to share some of the stories that have been missing from the international news about how people and communities in these countries are experiencing this pandemic that is going on and on. At the beginning, about a year ago, people were interested in hearing about what does the pandemic mean for people in poverty? How does a lockdown affect someone living in a slum? But those conversations have moved on, and now it's more like, oh, we're in lockdown with, you know, with our garden and with enough food in our healthcare, and people are getting bored in lockdown, you know, all over the world. And so lockdown is a universal struggle, but you know, for people living in poverty or in situations where there's not adequate healthcare, sometimes they can't work at all, sometimes there's no access to food, then it's like, what is actually happening when the world has moved on from COVID, but COVID hasn't moved on from these communities? Like, what do we do now? So we wanted to share these stories, so to discuss, to understand the environment in these countries, and also talk about what's being done, how people have innovated and survived, and what we can do to support. So if anyone would like to start by sharing what's happening in your country, then we can go from there.
Can I come in, Christy?
Yes.
Thank you very much for inviting me for this talk today. It's a wonderful opportunity to share what is happening in my community. Like you said, last year we had a lockdown. Yes, in Uganda we had a lockdown, and everyone was, you know, was like, yes, let's go for the whole lockdown, because we had what was happening in the Western world. So everyone was, you know, was very okay with it, and we agreed. We went for the lockdown until the lockdown passed. And then the government lifted a few things, and then life came to, you know, to normal. But recently, about 14 days ago, that's when we started experiencing a second wave of COVID-19 in Uganda. And this time it is really a serious wave whereby it is sweeping each and everything. So it doesn't leave the rich, it doesn't leave the poor. So it doesn't know if you have the money or you don't have. And what happens where we are right now, for example, me, I'm a patient of COVID. I've been in that for the last 3 weeks with my family, my wife, and other colleagues. About 5 of them have been down, but good enough that we are recovering. But this is a scenario whereby you get a COVID, you become a patient of COVID, but you have responsibilities. Like, I have children I have to take care of. I have a center that are with children who are orphaned. They have nowhere to go. I'm the father, I'm the mother, you know, I'm the breadwinner. So I'm already on the ground, and you get sick, and the next thing you have is a call. You know, we don't have food, we don't have something to eat. Even the community, the people that you are trying to help in the community, they're also relying on you. They are calling you, you know, Ebo, we need food. As they're calling you in that kind of circumstances, and a call from a relative, you know, you get another call that, you know, Ebo, what? We have lost ABCD. And you are like, you know, you are traumatized in that moment. You know, you even take a breath, you are like, am I going to survive? Imagining you're sick, they're calling you, somebody's dying. You're sick, they're calling you, you know, children don't have food. You're sick, you know, there are so many things. And yet, you are the brain winner, you are down, you know, you can't access medicine, because right now, when you go to the hospitals, you know, people are charging a lot of money exorbitantly, in that you can't even afford to get the simplest kind of medicine that you can get in the clinic, because right now it is totally very expensive. When it comes to oxygen, it is hell, you can't get oxygen. But what do? is just wake up in the morning, do what you can be able to do, get the local medicine. If you can be able to get the simple medicine, like maybe paracetamol or something like that, you add to the local, concoctions that we make, and you drink that and you survive. That's how I've managed to survive, doing some exercises, taking a lot of water. But I'm telling you, the situation is hard, because I really thought I was going to die, because I was seeing my friends down, my wife down, but I have a baby. Imagine that situation. You are covering yourself, you feel you want to get warmth, you want to gain energy, and your baby is crying. She wants to get something. You are like, you're traumatized. What do I do? People are dying not because of only COVID-19, okay? But they're dying a combination of so many things. One, lack of medicine, because in government hospitals, there is no medicine, but these are hospitals that are totally full now. You can't even get a bed where to, we have resumed now to home care. Secondly, people are dying of hunger. People don't have food to eat. Children are dying, children are crying. So you think it's only basically the adults that are dying, but it's a combination of adults, young girls, young children, young women, all of them are dying, not because of only COVID, but even hunger. Now, people also are dying of stress and trauma. People, we have developed this sense whereby people think that the moment you get COVID, you are totally gone. So what are we trying to do now? We are trying to help people that if you get COVID, the thing is that you can still stay alive. So we are trying to help them that you have to stay strong so that you can be able to live, because the more you get traumatized, the more even your oxygen is going to become low. So most of the cases that I've heard from my colleagues or from my relatives have died because of oxygen is very low. People are traumatized. The person is like, now my baby doesn't have what to eat. What am I going to do? I'm sick. Now, what we decided to do is also to run to Just Peoples to see that they can help us to get a donation so that we can give food relief to people, because so that we can reduce the number of people that are dying of hunger, at least. And yes, people dying of hunger, and at least helping people to encourage them to stay strong so that we can fight on. Otherwise, if we don't encourage these people to remain strong, everyone will lose it, and nobody's going to to fight the battle at the end of the end of it, because the government right now is saying they're going to give food relief, but actually they are talking now in terms of cash money. Last time in the last lockdown, they failed to give food. They gave just a few, and they failed to give others. Like myself, in our community, we didn't even get a single kind of food. So this time they are saying they are going to give cash relief, but still it has also failed. The money goes into the hands of the few. So that's why for us, I can say we just have a bogus government that cannot even do anything for us. So we just need to cater for ourselves, and then we leave our taxes to go, unused. So basically, it is really a lot that I can say, but because of time, I just leave it there so that we can have a discussion. But I want to thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, so that I also, bring out what I really feel at my heart, because I'm really traumatized at some point. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you for sharing, Robert. I'm so sorry.
I would like to add on one thing that that Robert says about people die not only due to the COVID that they are positive with. There's so many things that may end someone's life. For example, in my community, I'm Hong Sang, so I'm the founder of Coin for Change from Vietnam. I'm supporting single mother, disadvantaged single mother in Vietnam. My child are not in the situation like Robert says, because I have been working very hard in a very high position for 20 years. So I had enough saving to live some years, and I have garden and I have pets to take care. Yes, like most of the listeners maybe from the Western countries. However, my community that I'm serving is not living in that condition. They are women who've been traumatized with domestic violence, with husband who betrays them and have betrayed outside, with a lot of financial issues, and with social stigma, society stigma against James, and all of that. It's already traumas in their hearts, and they've been wanting to kill themselves many times. So the COVID adds on more reason for them to end up their lives. Yes, so it is something that more than no food, children crying without milk, lockdowns and relative dying or relative is in the situation, and husband and the past trauma keep coming back and hitting you, and yeah, you've been trying to kill yourself sometime before, and now you have no more reason to go on if your kid having some trouble, for example. So it is one more thing to add on what Robert already said about there are many reasons to die, to kill someone due to the pandemic.
Oh, that's terrible. I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm just like my only input is I'm so sorry throughout this whole discussion, but yeah, what you guys are facing is just so many different layers of trauma and death, isn't it? So I'm so sorry. Bushra and Mushfiqah, do you guys want to?
Yeah, I think one thing that Robert said, we also sort of relate very well with it, is that it's not just the disease that's killing people, it's also their will to live. So that's many things. For us in Bangladesh, it's not easy for us to just stop working, because majority of our people, they either work in like garments or like clothing factories. They work on, driving rickshaws. So, and everything's like human done. So that means that they need to go out and do this work. And I was reading this news just yesterday that this father committed suicide because he couldn't provide enough food for his kids. And this has become normal for us right now. Like, if we are seeing this news so much that if we see it on the news anymore, it's not even like the headlines of the news. Now it's like the third, fourth page of newspapers, because it has become so common during the last 1.5 years. And one thing that we have seen is that there needs to be something that drives that hope, because if you go to the hospitals here as well, you'll be, right now, if you go to any hospital, you'll be turned away because we don't have enough ICU beds. And that's the reality of it. It's because everything is filled. Even though we have oxygen, but it's so expensive right now that anyone from a middle income to a low income family cannot afford it. And if you want to talk about any other aspects of healthcare, that's just simply not available. And we don't have any kind of a medical insurance that can cover these aspects. And like, we are seeing people day to day where people are being forced to go to the factories because the factories are remaining open and the lockdown is still there. That means that they now don't have any transport. They don't have any money to afford anything to, go to the factories to show up. And if they do become sick, they don't have the money to go to the hospital. So the only option that is left for them is to die or to, struggle out of hunger. And that's the reality that we are facing here. And the worst thing that we have seen from our end is that if you look at the hospitals in Bangladesh, like, the doctors at some point, like, so many doctors started dying that everyone got scared, because the doctors also need a lot of equipment and a lot of stuff to help the patients. And a lot of this, like, what we saw is that these doctors some of them were given fake PPE. So that's really not PPE. That's sort of just like a piece of cloth to wear on their mouth, or just a piece of cloth that they are DIYing to wear on themselves. And salute to them that they still, like, some of them still continue on to their duty. But the reality was that a lot of them couldn't, because a lot of them died. And a lot of them had to turn patients away because they had nothing, they didn't have a better option to sort of help out. And that's what we have been experiencing all throughout from last year. And this year, what has been worse is that, so last year, everyone thought that people in our villages or in our rural areas are stronger, they're more immune. And last year, it did not really affect them because they were doing quite well. And it was Dhaka, like our capital, that was being affected the most. But this year, everything just reversed. So what happened is that although we saw a little downward trend in Dhaka, we saw that all these rural villages that barely even have any hospitals to begin with, now they're full. So that's worse, because you don't have doctors there, you don't have the hospitals are like 10 bed, 20 bed hospitals with like one ICU bed in an entire area of, let's say, like 1 or 2 million people, or a few thousand people. And that's crazy, because now we are looking at images and photos of people like lying down on the streets, on stretchers, grasping for oxygen, and they don't have anywhere to go. And like anything that we can do, like our entire motto in this entire thing was anything that we can do to help the situation. Even if it's helping one person reach to that hospital, or even if it's one person, you know, that gets that will to survive, or that gets that will to treat a patient, I think that's the most we can offer in a situation like this. And that's the best we can do going forward. That it's just keeping a bit of the hope alive, so that people have something to live for.
Wow, thank you for sharing. Things have really shifted, haven't they? Like, I remember a year ago when we were talking about, you know, how to get food or how to get medical care, but now it's almost like there is no food, there is no medical care, like people can't work. So it's like, how do we give people the will to live? Like all three of you, we're talking about people sort of giving up, being like, the situation sort of seems hopeless. Like they've been trying for so long.
I have a member in my community, single mom, she killed herself because in Vietnam, when someone dies, we're gonna give, you know, money to support with what is that?
Burial.
Yeah, couriers and sort of that. But she's down in the river, so, and she get the letter, and hopefully on that her kid can spend all the money that relatives send her. So stuff like that happen. Although the situation in Vietnam right now seems not as worse as Bangladesh and Uganda, because we just starting. Our government have only one strategy since the beginning of the pandemic: lockdown, 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 and lockdown. So that's 1,000 times. I don't even remember how many times we are in lockdown right now, because they open for 1 week and then lockdown, and then open for 1 week and lockdowns and all of that like that. And it affects the economy, because people don't have money to. They run out of money because there's no support from the government in terms for company or for business or for people. So they've been spending their saving, and we are not a rich country, right? So and especially for poor people like women in my community, they spend on their saving, and they have to pay for renting, they have to pay for food, and there's no food to. They are not allowed to go out and work, and yeah. So the situation is very stuck. So on maybe the number of people who dies or number of people who are affected by COVID, not as much as in your countries. I don't know if I should mention, but the number is not really reliable. Anyways, it seems like we still much better than you guys. However, in my community, yes, we witness people kill themselves and have the what is that, the letters that they send to relatives and friends and all of that,
like
hoping
suicide note.
Yeah, suicide note and stuff like that. And we have a community that we try to support each other in the community. So before we send money, and now we, even the donor, don't have money to send for the poor, because we are single mom. So we build a community at first with one small support from the Dutch people. We created the COVID emergency support for all the single mom, and then I share the idea with other single mother in my community. So whoever has some money, they're gonna share for the poor single mom. So I mean, for example, me can share with other single mothers that poorer than me. However, after a year and a half, I'm running out of money as well, because there's nothing to do. There's no work and nothing to do. So we cannot support that way. So we're trying to, for example, send the stuff inside in our house. For example, food or dry food or all of that we send to them. But recently, for about 3 months, it's not even a virus. The government don't even allow it to do so, because if we want to send something out of our house, we have to go to bring that one to check if it is having COVID positive or something, and we will have to pay for the test. So yeah, it's really stuck in finding the way to have.
Oh my goodness. So with everyone, like all of you guys are community leaders, and long before the pandemic started, you've been leaders in your community, like solving local problems, creating development projects, creating opportunities for people to live better lives. And you've had to pivot, you know, you've had to sort of change track a little bit to be able to meet these emerging needs. But when because your communities rely on you, because you've always been problem solvers, and you're solving problems even now, but like when the need gets so great and it goes to a level of sort of existential crisis, like I've tried everything, there's nothing I can do, to the point where you think killing yourself to get money from the relatives for your children is the best you can do for your family, like that is so utterly heartbreaking. Like it's next level, the stories you guys are saying. But amidst all of this pain and kind of like bleakness where there's no clear way out, how do you keep going? Like how do you stay positive? How do you encourage your communities when it seems like there's no clear solution this time? Because, you know, we've all got a background in development, which is kind of like problem solving, solutions, long-term change, growth, right? Whereas this emergency is a different thing. So how do you handle that level of difficulty?
Let me say something about that, Christy. You know, being with friends in different countries is something that is really very important. And I've seen that it is something that is really helping a lot. For example, like during this situation, like I am today, if it wasn't this call, I think I would be like, you guys, I'm giving up on some things. But when you get such a situation and you share it with others, they give you a way and you remain with hope. Me, I believe I don't stay with the situation myself to see how I handle it. I share it with other colleagues and they give me ways on how I can survive. Let me give you a scenario. One time, I think it was 2 years back, I reached a time whereby I was supposed to solve some things in the community. I had no money at all. My landlord almost was like, can you get out of the house? So I was inside the house and I was like, what do? I almost committed suicide. But nevertheless, I called one of the friends and was like, you guys, can I tell you something? The situation I'm facing is really very traumatizing. What do I do? Because the landlord wants to take me outside and the community is calling me here and there. You know, I even handle health. I take those children that I have at the center. That scenario came when some of them were sick. They were sick of malaria. I had 15 of them. They were sick of malaria, but good enough, I was partnering with some clinic that do the medication for all those children, and then we think about the bill later. So when I shared that story with my colleague, who was like, no, Ebo, just wait, let me call you a minute. So I was like, okay, maybe something is going to come. I remained for about 5 minutes. They called me and they were like, no, Ebo, let's do ABCD. We got the solution by just sharing with other colleagues. And, you know, my heart was, you know, it came back to normal. And I was like, no, never, never, never hide or in isolation. Share issues with your colleagues. You will always have a solution. It's like now, when I'm sharing this with Christy, I'm sharing it with Tana, I'm sharing it with other colleagues, here we are getting solutions, because now I believe that it's not me in this situation alone. There are others outside there. So now I gain the momentum and I'm like, no, I have to push it further, okay, to see that we can get a solution. So otherwise, if you isolate yourself with a problem and you don't share it, at the end of the day, the truth is you will end up giving up, or you can even commit suicide. But otherwise, me, I share my problems with the rest of the people, and that's how I get solutions and I move forward.
Thank you. Well, that's something practical that anyone around the world can relate to. Like when you're really suffering with a problem that seems impossible to solve, going and talking to other people, sharing the burden can give you different angles of seeing it and renewed hope. So I'm glad that this is possible for you here too.
Very, very, very possible. Because when you look at the scenario, it's now a week. Right now, I've lost a relative right today. A week back, I lost one, and he even called me and was like, Ebo, I'm now in the hospital. But now I have 8 children. They're all young. How do I leave my children? When, when you hear such stories, you're like, I have a kid, I have other children, that I'm taking care of. Now, if I go away today, what happens? That's where I'm like, no, there is maybe a friend called Christy. Can I talk to Christy? There's this scenario. How do I solve it? How do I handle this situation of the children who don't have food? And always Christy will give you a solution, even if it's not like, sometimes we think it should be in terms of money. But money, I believe, doesn't solve everything in life. It just quickens some things on, how you handle some things. But just a mere talk to somebody and like, you do ABCD, it can solve something that would have been, you would have used a lot of money, to solve that. When people are in hospitals, they are basically isolated. This issue of isolation from your relatives when you get COVID, it is something that is really killing people.
Mm.
A person is like, he has nobody to talk to, and you can't see your relatives, you can't see anybody. But me, when I became sick, unfortunately, even my wife was sick. We only had our baby, and I was like, no, I can't put my baby away. Whatever comes, let it come. If I die, let me die once with my baby. So I was like, I have to hold my baby in whatever circumstance they are. So sometimes I could feel very sick, and I'm like, where's my baby? I have to see my baby. Then I gain more hope because I see my baby is okay. She didn't get any problem. She's normal up to today. So, I thank, first of all, we have to first thank the Almighty that we are still alive. Otherwise, some of us would be, gone. But, but just basically the stories that are within the community. Because right now in Uganda, they no longer even talk about, when you go to on TV or in newspapers, they no longer even list people who die. You may not know, but when you're in the community or on social media, you can see people, sharing all those that have died, all those people that are sick, everything. So right now, the government is trying to hide almost everything. Like recently I have...
the issue from the government. For my situation is... it is a little bit different because I have a big community of the single mom. We've been sisters for many years. I have like 1,000 sisters that can come anytime. We already created the community for them to share. So they have not relative, but they have other single mom as a sister to share everything in their life for very long time already. However, my situation that I found very, very interesting that I want to share with you guys. Maybe you guys can find the kind of higher power to believe in the life. For example, I'm a very professional worker that I work for big NGOs and big corporations before. So I always want to do everything professionally. It means if I run an organization, I need to hire people who speak fluent English, who have master degree in development, who have been study in New Zealand or Australia, so all of that as staff. So those are staff who worked with me before. I had single mom as sisters, but I always look at them as beneficiary, like all younger sisters that I had to take care of them. Unluckily, the pandemic came. I had no money to pay staff because if you want to hire professional staff, you have to pay, and you have to pay a lot of money, right? And I myself have a lot of childhood trauma that suddenly, due to some circumstance, I need to do therapies, and I be so down. And at that point of time, the single mom in my community come and offer help. And at first I said, you don't even have university degrees. You don't even have ability to use internet and computer. How can you do all of that projects? At first I said, oh, my life was terrible. Now I don't even have any people who speak English to have to work with me. And then I heard some voice that, yeah, it is a kind of offer that you have now, so you have to take. And then I take on all the single mom who don't know how to work on a Google Sheet to put on information about how much money they send, how many people they support, all of that in the team. And amazingly, they do an amazing job. Why? They have the sympathy for the beneficiary that I'm supporting. They are in the same shoes with it. So they understand that we, on the other, very professional, very high quality, high qualified, high educated person that I paid a lot of money to work for me before, can never understand. So, you know, you always have something higher than you that support you as long as you continue to go your way. So the reason why in the last around 3 months, right, quitting, I've been very, very down, up and down with my own inner issue, my own childhood trauma that I need to look back and see. And I been crying on that. Nothing is related to COVID because I'm staying well, like good, well in my house, and I have shaving and I have all of that. But on my work still going, thanks for all the women that I've been looked down for many years. So yeah, you know, you can find support anywhere as long as you open to receive the help that God or the universe or something send you when you really need it.
Oh, that's beautiful, Hong. What an interesting story, because, you know, we're always taught that, oh, you need to go with the most educated or the most qualified person, but actually, in this case, it's the person who has that shared experience, who really understands the people that you're supporting. They're the ones who do the best work, because they're so dedicated and they understand it, as you said.
The high educated person gonna try to go and find a job that pays them better.
Wow, thanks for sharing. And I'm glad that you are
I'm very
getting therapy and going, you know, and that you found the support from like God or your, you know, a higher power that gave you what you needed to carry on. Bushra and Mushrika, how do you guys carry on?
Yeah, I think so, like picking up two things from like Robert and Tong, like so one of the things that they said, Robert initially said, is that we initially find help in people around us. And as we have been speaking, like we know that we are all from the development sector, and we do work to help people, right, to improve people's lives somehow. And it's actually so what happens usually is that we try to understand a problem, and we usually understand the problem that we personally face ourselves the best, right? And that's what has been happening. Like we run our own school and we do other things, and we understand those problems very well because we have gone through those same problems, and we are trying to solve like those problems long term. And so it's actually funny, but also like ironic, is that being in the development sector and like going through COVID, like we also, like both me and Bushra, we also went through the entire COVID phase ourselves as well. So we knew what it felt to be like patients. We knew how much support you can get when you yourself get COVID. And like that experience itself was sort of phenomenal in a way, that that feeling of helplessness, that feeling of knowing that there is no fixed cure or medication or anything else that can really help you. You just sort of completely depend on hope. And actually, like last year, what happened is that I spent like almost 2 weeks in the hospital when my grandfather died. And I was there and serving with him, like across him all the time. And I knew that across me, like I saw, like the first day that I went in the hospital in the morning, 3 people died in front of my eyes. And that's very hard to watch, because I was just standing there, and this person who was just alive a second ago, this old lady, she just went limp in a matter of a seconds, and there were people rushing in to help her. And it's not like there are curtains or dividers in these places. So where my grandfather was sort of on the hospital bed, this person was just right on the next bed. And it's just this entirely big room where there's just a lot of beds. There are no curtains, no dividers, nothing. So being in that place, and while I was in that hospital for like a week or a little bit more than that, I saw almost 50 to 55 people like die in front of my eyes. And that's too much to handle. Like you can you really can't imagine like what that does to you, because you see their relatives waiting outside, and we used to wait outside sometimes with them, share our food, talk to them. And then when we are going inside, we know we're facing the same circumstance. And we know there's all sorts of people who are going into this hospital and there's really nothing else to do. You're just waiting in line to see people die. And even the patients, like when they're seeing these people in front of them, they completely lose hope. They don't know what to do. And I remember, like, my grandfather was a very, very strong person. So he never really, he was very playful, very friendly. So, and I know that he closed his eyes up. He was trying to look the other way. And even at times when he was like having his food or trying to eat his food, because it was very hard for him, even during those times, like, there were people dying in front of him. So he didn't know what to do. He didn't want me to feel bad. And it's just this entire circle that was going on. But I think, and it was a traumatic experience. Like, I think it took quite a long time, and my family is still recovering, and we have lost not one, I think around 5 to 6 people. And it's the same for Bushra's end as well.
Yeah.
Like, they survived COVID too. And I think from this entire experience, like after this entire experience, although it took us some time to get back, but it's also a place where we're learning from our real life experience. Like, I can personally say for myself that I know what it feels like to be at the hospital and to not have anything work for you. And that's why I do the work I do. That's my motivation behind it. And that's what keeps me going, because there are hundreds and thousands of people like my grandfather who's in overcrowded hospitals, seeing other people die, losing all hope, and dying themselves. And this is a scenario that's repeating across Bangladesh. And that's what I want to help with. Like, being an engineer or a change maker of some sort, that's what I really care about, is that if there's no point if I sit down and mourn for a very long time, because in the time that I do that, there could be maybe 100 people that I could help.
Yeah, and I want to add to that. I mean, something that I want to add to that is that other than Mushfiq's grandfather, I think I've also, there were 4 people who also died in our family as well, including over the past 1 year. So including 2 grandparents and then 1 uncle and an aunt, and they were very close. I grew up watching them, and like Mushfiq's grandfather was one of those lucky people who actually had the opportunity to even get admitted to a hospital. None of my relatives at that moment even had the opportunity or even had the chance to get into a hospital. So it's actually that bad, and it's all 4 of them. So, when I think about it, everyone, I think, like literally every family in Bangladesh right now is facing a scenario like that, where either they're having to not, just like barely get into some kind of a hospital and pay a very thick amount of money to avail absolutely minimal or very bad quality service, or not get into a hospital at all. But something that came out of this was that I think throughout our community, there's been a movement where even if it's for your own family or even if it's for your friends, people have been very open to help each other. So since we're talking about, what gives us hope, that there's an entire movement within our community, and, people like us, where we're trying to distribute, improvised PPE to help people. We've been in communication, and there's been this, like, the birth of an entirely new community, where it's not people who are just there for the sake of being there, but it's people who are strong-willed and willing to help you out, even if you are not a relative, even if you are not family. For example, we've been needing a lot of plasma from recovered patients, and there's been Facebook group that's been created with thousands of people getting added over maybe just a fortnight. And people have been coming forward, patients who have recovered from COVID, to donate plasma, and it's been very, very helpful. And then in groups where there's, people who are actually helping to distribute PPE in hospitals, they've been more than accommodating with anything that's been absolutely, within their capacity, because now we're short of transport. So even if we have PPE, it's getting very difficult to get them to the doctors or get them to the hospitals. But then there's been people who have been stepping up, just coming forth, like, I have some kind of service or something like that, I can just get it across. So I think that's what gives me, that's what kind of makes me still see it in a positive light, because I know that even if we're facing so much death, there are people who are changing from the inside because of this, because of the experience that we're having, even though it's a very traumatic experience, even though it's very negative, but it's kind of changing these very people in the community into change makers and into real life, sometimes heroes, sometimes just people who are taking a lot of good initiatives. So community wise, it's been helping us a lot. So for people who've been willing to help, change makers, it's been good, somehow, for a while, even if you're communicating with them or whatever. So there's a bit of hope, when you think there's not. So yeah.
Thank you, Bushra, and I'm so sorry for your personal loss. I'm so sorry. Oh, I didn't think I could get myself together there, and here I am. I'm going to cry again, but this is, I'm just so sorry that you guys have been so personally affected. And it's crazy, like in Western countries mostly, you see people debating about whether or not they should wear a mask, and people are
Whether
like,
or not they should take the vaccine. Why
You
we
know,
don't know where the
that sort of
vaccine gonna
thing.
come.
how dare you make me wear a mask? I'm not going to wear a mask, this sort of thing. Like that's the issue. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
these are my rights. How dare you make me cover my face? And it's like, that is not the issue. Like what you guys are talking about, that's the issue.
Actually, Christy, in Uganda now, if they find you without a mask, you go into jail for 2 months.
Oh, wow.
That
really?
is not the law. Yes, 2 months inside.
Wow.
So
we don't
it's
have
no longer
enough. We don't have enough. What is that? The currency in the jails to put people in. So our government only want money.
Oh,
If
you get caught without a mask, you bribe the policeman.
money.
Well, it's incredible, all of the things that you guys are saying, and in certain places you've talked about kind of people that are profiting from it. Abel, you talked about how it's so expensive just to buy paracetamol because people have hiked up the prices and they're profiting from people's misery, this sort of thing, which is terrible. But then it's wonderful to hear, Bushra, how people are actually cooperating and how there's so many people that are turning into change makers. So it's not just the misery and death and exploitation and governments taking it all. It's not all misery. Like if it turns people into seeing how they can contribute to the world and taking action on that, like that's a really beautiful thing to come out of this disaster. And on that note, like I'd love to hear you guys talk about the tangible difference that you've been making in your community. Like I know all of you have been on the front line and you've been using your brains and your experience and your resources to do everything you can to make a difference. So would you like to talk about the tangible difference that you've been able to make, how you guys with your organizations have been able to make improvements, and then also how we can help amplify your impact?
Let me go first. For example, in my community, before I separate the competence with the single mother community. The Conference is an organization going to hire professional staff to do professional things and support the single moms. Now, I did not make like the decision yet, but I see a very beautiful path for the future that the single mom can become the leader, can become the managers. Because in the last 3 months, without me involved, all the projects been running so well. It's even much better than before because they add a lot of emotion, they add a lot of caring, they add a lot of beautiful thing from their heart to the work that they do. So it's yeah, I just need to somehow help them tell the story better, because they are not the one who good at telling the story. For example, Christy may remember that I tried to make a thank you donor videos, and then all the single mom appear on the screen. Thank you, thank you. they don't know how to say some beautiful things that make donors or other people cry, but they know how to do things that really save the other's life. So I think I'm changing a lot in terms of looking at the workers that can be my partners, and for the organization's manager, and I can somehow merge the two things into together. That is a big change in me and in the organization as well. It's also like you to share that there's many people became chain maker, there's many people became heroes. That is also happening in my community. So that's a big change. I see both mostly in me, but it's also lovely to have a pathway forward for the beautiful future that we can continue to do the job.
Thank you, Hong.
I want to share also something about my organization, Center and Foundation. I've been on the front line actually since the first lockdown, because I've been gaining a lot of momentum from my past experience also. When I lost my brother hands-on when I was with him in 2020. So when COVID came, it was like I could no longer fear death because I'd experienced it lively. So when this lockdown came, I was like, yeah, I can do anything. Okay. So I no longer fear anything to do it. Like move to different places. Me, I would be on the front door to see that I can go anywhere. It has still, even up to now, I still do it. But when that COVID-19 came in, we had to find ways on how to help people even without our presence. But first of all, we could find out which things are that are going to help those people immediately, like the most essential things. For example, when the lockdown was lifted, the first lockdown, people helped us to make sure that people learn how to make soap, because soap is very essential now. If you don't wash your hands, if you don't wear a mask, that means you're not preventing yourself from COVID. So we've helped those people to make soap, especially people from the island. We have even worked with volunteers to make sure that they can be able to get water. We have installed pumps, water pumps there, so that they can be able to have enough water to wash their hands. A combination of soap and water. Now you're good to go. We've been helping them, make pads, girls to survive during this period of the pandemic, because right now you'll find that some things are very expensive and they can't get them. Helping the communities to get food, my center, even other communities that I'm helping, especially those with single mothers, even during the last lockdown, whereby by that time, actually, we could not move at all. So those families, they were calling me, but now we have a digital platform where we are able to transfer money. We call it mobile digital transfer. And we could transfer finances to those people so that they can get what to eat. Even up to now, we are also using those platforms, but still, we are now going into a food relief project right now that we are going to buy food and send it to those people directly so that they can have food to eat, and they will reduce on the impacts of people dying of hunger and, and children. But besides that, there's also, health. I partnered with some healthcare clinic that is helping to treat those people. Especially, we found out that COVID comes along with malaria. You feel like you have fever. Okay. So those people, the moment those people call me and they're like, this child is feeling this lady is feeling this, I always tell them, please go to the clinic so that they can find out, do you have malaria? Do you have, because anyway, that clinic does not test for COVID. And the other thing that we're even fearing to test COVID, because the moment people understand that they have COVID, they get serious fear. They know that they are going to die. So we encourage people, even the people in the clinic, they don't tell them that they have COVID. They instead tell us so that we can be able to encourage them and tell them what to do. Like right now, I've been handling a number of people that have COVID. They always call me, Ebo, what do we do? We have these signs, because right now the COVID signs are not hiding. They are actually universal, I can say. If you got headache, you'll find another person is going to get headache, is going to get flu or cough, or a person is going to get weak, joint pains and everything. They're universal kind of symptoms. So I tell the doctor, please don't tell them that they have COVID, but just tell them they have fever so that we treat them according, so that they don't get to know that they have COVID, so that they can take that medication knowing that they're going to get well. For example, things like malaria. Here, malaria is normal. Every person knows that the moment I have malaria, I'll be fine. I'll take medicine and get fine. So I'm using that kind of approach so that they don't tell those people that have a number of children, people that are having a number of problems, issues. You don't tell them that you have malaria, but I tell them, I mean, you don't have COVID. I tell them, please, even the doctors, I tell them you have malaria or you have fever, but you'll be fine. We are going to give you medicine and you'll be fine. So they take the medicine that they give them, and then we combine it with the local, what we call it, the local concoction. We have a lot of herbs that we get from the trees, you know, from different gardens, and then they combine them together, they boil, they steam themselves, you know. So I guide them on how to do it, like how I survived. So right now I'm at home, but still I call different people and tell them, please do ABCD. The other option is that we have created another platform online, whereby in case a person doesn't have food, a person has stress, a person has any problem, we do now therapy online. So we help them to do that therapy so that the person doesn't, you know, that doesn't get traumatized, so that the person will know that he or she will survive. Thank you.
I was on mute. Wonderful. Thank you, Robert. Wow, what an interesting approach, having to tell people that they've just got malaria so that they don't worry about COVID. But yeah, the fear around COVID is a real thing. I mean, I had COVID, yes. And because you hear so many stories and you don't know exactly what it is, I'm asthmatic, so I was like, maybe I'll lose a lung. Do you know what I mean? You just, because you hear so many stories, you just don't know what COVID is. And so when you get it, it is scary. And I had access to all the medical care, you know, anything that I needed, I could have got if I had needed it. So, you know, without that safety net and with all that fear and misinformation, it must be, and then having 8 kids to think about, it must be absolutely terrifying to find out you've got COVID. So that's a really great strategy to say that.
But even to thank you, Christy, I remember when I talked to you, that is a strategy. Like I told you, I talked to friends. When we talked about last time when I was talking about food relief, you told me you had COVID and it took you like about 1 month to heal. And I was like, oh, okay. If Christy got COVID and she got healed within a month, that means I can be also fine. So when I've been getting all these other side effects of COVID, I was like, no, Chris told me she took 1 month. So I could stick on that and could gain my energy and still continue working. So otherwise, I also thank you for that. Thank you for being open to that. You know, people fear to open. People have been fearing to open. And I think in one of the groups, I've been the first person to open and tell them, you know what, guys, I got COVID, but now I'm getting better. So being even openness to others, it is okay, apart from knowing that this person is really going to get traumatized and might get, you know, other complications the moment you talk about COVID. So it depends even on which person you're talking to.
Yeah, and it seems like a theme that's come up in this chat, how people have used their own experiences of pain to then help other people, like particularly in the single mother community, how they were better than the professionals because of that personal experience. And I feel like, you know, your story with your grandfather Mushfiq, which was absolutely heartbreaking, and I feel like maybe trauma therapy could be on the cards after witnessing 50 people die in the hospital. Like that's terrible, but like I just, it's incredible that motivates you to do more as well. You know, it's the same sort of thing. So I'll let you guys talk about your response to the pandemic and how you've been making a tangible difference.
I think, so thank you. I think that our response to the pandemic was, so it was a very interesting, it's very storybook-like. So what happened is that I know back in 2020, like we really didn't have a direction to what we were planning to do. Like when everything hit, like we never faced something like this, and everything was for the first time. Everyone was in utter panic and we didn't really know what to do. I remember being actually in a call with you guys, both you and Joe, and with Just Peoples, and it was the middle of the night in Dhaka. It was like 3:30 or 4 in the morning here, and I remember we were talking about how to get some COVID help out there to, to make a difference. And back then we just had like one broken 3D printer that we were trying to build things out of, and like just from that point onwards, like we got ourselves a few more 3D printers and we started printing face shields. And that was one of the first things we did. And that was a huge impact project because we gave out almost 3,500 to 3,600 pieces of like just face shields to like doctors who didn't have anything then. Like there were no medical supplies, there was nothing. So this was their primary access to something that they would use to, help patients. And we also gave some face shields to patients, emergency workers, and other emergency personnel, like people who take samples and stuff like that. And that was heavily impactful. And like our entire COVID journey has been with Just Peoples, because like without Just Peoples, I don't think like our COVID response even exists to begin with. And I think following from that, we actually designed like our own ventilator, and then we received a bit of funding for that. And and because of that, like, so now patients were having trouble to breathe. There were not enough ventilators, and we had like in the entire country, we had like 20 or 30 ventilators, and there was a huge crisis for ventilators. And we were there. We created like this small ambulance pack that hospitals and paramedics could carry around to save patients. So then we save patients and help patients in that front. And then like coming forward from that, we thought of integrating our solution. And every time, like Robert says, like you ask for help from outside, we were looking at like the international open source communities where there were people building and making different things to help each other. And from that, we got a lot of inspiration. And with your help, what we have been able to do is we came up with, our PAPRs. And that's what we have been doing for some time now. And we have distributed a hefty amount of them to doctors. We have actually covered like a major chunk of hospitals inside Dhaka. So we were able to give it to like some of the main doctors, like people who go into the ICUs, who go into the OT rooms and stuff like that. And it has been absolutely phenomenal, because I just can't really explain to you or tell you unless I actually, show you my call log of like doctors calling me every second, and they're like, oh my God, do you have more of these left? Like, can we really use them? And we know of hospitals that are actually even sharing up, since there's not enough to go around. So there are hospitals where doctors are sharing the PAPRs, like while they're on duty, or they're exchanging PAPRs, and that's what's happening. Because like for a hospital of, let's say, 20 doctors, we are able to cover like 3 or 4 doctors from the PAPRs that we have had. And we just know that doctors have been calling us on and off, and some of them have just been crying on the phone. Some of them have been so happy. They've been calling us and telling us, you know what, you are helping us save lives today. And that's, I think, something that we are personally proud of. And like, absolutely. And what has happened is that, like, in certain places or in certain hospitals, like there was no PPE or anything else to begin with, right? So when and some of these doctors, some of these nurses, like they totally just said that we really can't go to the hospitals without proper PPE. So that meant that the hospitals were getting backlogged with a lot of patients. And we're not talking about 1 or 2 patients.
Have they frozen for you guys too?
Yeah, I think
No.
the internet has issue.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame. They were just getting to the punchline.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can talk and then they come back later. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure they'll come in when they
When they
unfreeze.
fix the internet.
Yeah.
For me, in response for the COVID, yeah, like I shared before, that we have a community with the single mom. We start up an emergency COVID-19 response support to support on the single mom with funding from just people. At the beginnings, at that time, we use the fund to send single mother 500,000 dongs each to buy food. And we support around 40 of them at the first, and then after that we have all the other single mom that wanna be donor. Hi, welcome back. So
Sorry, our power went out.
No worries. We figured
No
that would happen.
Yeah. So right now my community.
We'll come back to you guys.
Yeah. My community have how much I have 993 members. 1/3 of them are donor and 2/3 of them are the beneficiaries that waiting to have support somehow. However, that like I was share with you before that we don't even have money to support each others, and we've been trying to ship food and vegetables and fruits and all of that all around the country to support our member. However, right now, even that thing is not possible to do due to the very heavy lockdown. And I think Vietnam gonna come on the international news very soon, because it seems like the government is out of control now with so many positive cases in our biggest city, in Ho Chi Minh City. They have like 1,000 new positive case every day, 5,000, 6,000, something like that. So and our healthcare system is not well enough to hand over all of that things. That's the reason why the government been using only one strategy, which is lockdown. They know it so well that if there is more than 1,000 cases a week, it's impossible to handle. And right now we have 1,000 cases every day. So yeah, so I am not a fundraising person. I'm actually an entrepreneur. I want to do sustainable things, business things that support and sustainable. So I'm not really like to do calling like please donate, because that's not me. If I want some donation, it's only because I want to start something and that needs some little kick off to start it on. And I always very innovative to find a way to continue to do that. But right now in this situation, yeah, we need donation.
You've been very innovative, and the system that you set up for the cash transfers was absolutely beautiful, because we gave you a grant of about $1,000 or something, and then it became self-sustainable, because the women who received the grants, when they got back on their feet, they started then donating to the next woman. It was the most beautiful thing, and the fact that it's still sustainable and that people are still contributing to other women, it's an incredible impact that you did by setting that up for them. I'll just go back to Bushra. Now I'm not sure if you know when you cut out, but what we heard was you've served so many doctors, and then you were about to say sort of how many doctors, how many patients have been impacted, and that's when you froze. It was quite a cliffhanger.
So according to like the numbers that we have, so we have already gotten PAPRs to I think with like a combined effort, I think we have gotten close to around 60 PAPRs or something around that number. I think it might be a little bit larger than that. And the doctors that we have been able to help with that number is it's around 60 doctors, and actually more, because like the doctors are sharing the PAPRs across their hospitals. But what is more important to see is that the numbers that we've received from hospitals is that these doctors from the hospitals that we are dealing with are dealing with around 7,500 patients per day. And that's the number that we are looking at right now. And that's the amount of people and patients that are being seen every day by these doctors who otherwise did not have any resources to even come to the patients, to talk to them or like to treat them somehow. And these are extremely crowded hospitals. There's no social distancing, nothing. Even the patients are kept all together in the same place. So it's just incredible to see that we are able to help close to 7,000 people on a daily basis right now with just a small intervention. And that's something that we are proud and very happy of. And that's something that we go back to every day when we go to sleep at night, that we are being able to help. We are trying to make some kind of a difference. And just to tell you like the scale of the difference is that just yesterday, we heard that 2 of the rural hospitals in Bangladesh, like there are 2 new hotspots of COVID patients in 2 rural areas, and the nurses and the doctors in those areas have gone on strike because they don't have anything. Like they have absolutely nothing. They have to go in like a normal doctor or a nurse, and they have to treat the COVID patient, which are highly contagious, and they have absolutely nothing. And so they have gone on strike, and they're saying that right now they're currently on strike, and there are patients waiting outside in the hallways, in the hospitals. And now they're saying that they cannot treat more people without support because it's simply not possible, because there have been instances where there are nurses and doctors dying, and they're already putting themselves on the line, on the, the front line of the duty. And they're like, we can't do more than this without help. And that is why in those areas, like with the new, so I'll just give you the numbers. So I think 4 days or 5 days back, the total number of COVID cases in Bangladesh was around 3,000. And yesterday it was 12,000. We haven't received the news for today yet, but it will be somewhere around the 13 to 14,000 mark. So you see, like within like 3 to 4 days, it's just an exponential rise. Things are just spiraling out of control. And from just 28 to 30 deaths, or like 5 or 6 days back, yesterday it was 200 deaths. Yeah. So you understand that just by doctors not being at those hospitals, not being able to serve, we are looking at those numbers. And these are government numbers. These are conservative at best, because we know like across the hospitals, it's almost 8 to 10 times more than what these numbers are saying. So it's absolutely insane about what is happening. And that's why we are confidently able to say that, whatever we have been able to do with your help, like with Just People's, is phenomenal, because of that, you have the prayers of 5,000 to 6,000 people coming to you every day. I think that's the difference that we can talk about. And yeah, I think those are the numbers.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you guys so much for all of this information. Thank you for sharing like such personal stories as well. I'm so sorry for all of your losses. You're all going through really traumatic times, individually and collectively. So I'm so sorry for that. And thank you for sharing your work and for the incredible response that you guys have had, for your courage to stand up and face the pandemic and be like, I'm going to do something about you. The odds might be against me, but I'm going to do what I can for the people that I can support. And that is so inspiring, and it gives me so much motivation to do more, to do what I can, to use the resources that I have to take action, because it's worth it for the people that you can save. So thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. If there's anything else you want people to know, feel free to jump on and say a final comment. But otherwise, we'll wrap it up there, and I'll give links to all of your project pages so that people can support your work. So thanks so much, guys.
I think I would like to say one thing, like the pandemic is come for us to learn about ourselves, to learn about our communities and the life in general. Yeah, for example, I learned that education with knowledge, with eyes and books and all of that, sometimes does not help you in your life. What is coming from your heart is always going to have. And yeah, you, as long as you are kind and nice and wanted to contribute to keep the words in its beautiful ways, then you'll be blessed. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. And very nice to see you guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I also want to thank you all for this opportunity, because I'm now a totally different person from the person that I started with in the morning when we are starting this call. You have really changed my life now. I'm totally a different person with a different perspective now. So hearing different conversations from different people has made now my heart to at least to be somebody who is now very strong and very enthusiastic, to push on. Like how I started in the beginning, I was like sharing these opportunities. I was like, I can't go away until I hear something to change my life. So I'm now feel I can push it on, however much that we are facing this hard life. I want to thank everyone for sharing. I want to thank Christy for this opportunity, this wonderful opportunity. I'm still ready to push on. What come may, I'm ready. I know the situation is tough out there, but still we shall continue pushing on to see that we can save our people, save the children, save the women and everyone that we're working with. So thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Otherwise, you have made my day now very brighter. Otherwise, I had totally something different in my mind in the morning, because waking up on the wrong side of the bed is something that is very disturbing for the day. So now my day is totally different. Thank you, guys.
You could be on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, stay positive and stay safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robert.
I just wanted to say same thing as well, that, whatever we go through, I think we go through it collectively. And I just want to say, all the Just People's leaders that we've had the opportunity to meet over the past 2 months, the wonderful monthly meeting that you guys have been arranging. So it's been amazing. So to know all of your work and to just know all of your, share our shared experiences. And I just want to say that, we're sort of in this together, in a sense that whatever you're going through, no matter how small or how big we can relate to it, we're always there. And I just, love the fact that we're always there for each other. And, for example, this was amazing to hear out, even though we're in different countries right now, but then again, we have so much to correlate with each other and just like, to sympathize and empathize with. So that's something that also makes me feel very good. And I'm just really positive and hopeful about it, what we can change as an international community. So thanks, Christy and Joe, for that.
Yeah, and I just like to add one final comment. I think that throughout this pandemic, like there has been lots of ups and downs, because we have all been going through a lot. And in Bangladesh, it doesn't feel like there is nothing outside the pandemic. Like the pandemic seems normal now, like staying at home and doing things with a mask on and like not talking to people outside. All of this seems normal. And I think through all of this, every time that we have had faced some kind of a difficulty, every time that we didn't know where to go, I think Just Peoples have been like a guardian angels for us, because we have always reached out to you, always found hope. It's not just about fundraising or something like that. It's someone we know that we have a friend to talk to. We know that someone, no matter what people are saying around us, we know that you guys are there. You'll always listen to us, and you'll always find a way to help us, support us, and that too mentally as well, because this is one of the hope that keeps our work alive. This is the hope that's keeping patients alive in Bangladesh. And yeah, thank you just for being there, watching over us. We really can't ask for anything more than that.
Thank you, guys.
Or that one. This is
yeah, that one too. Oh, getting tears in my eyes again. Thank you so much. This has been, really, really beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing so openly, everyone, and for your incredible life-changing work. I'm going to stop the recording now.
Have a good day, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm now a warrior.
You're now a warrior.
Yes.